What's up, guys? Welcome to the 250th episode of Red Nation Hoops. Took us 7 years to get here, but we're here. I'm very excited. We have 5 guests starting today with Raheel Ramzanali, one of the first guests we ever had on the show. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I remember my first appearance on the podcast. It was at night after a Rockets, I think it was a Rockets-Clippers game, I want to say.
Yeah.
Rockets-Clippers or Rockets-Timberwolves, I don't remember, but it was one of those two teams. And that my daughter was just born around that time, so she was really young.
Right.
So she was sleeping, and I was doing the interview in the living room. And
I think you're doing it in your car.
Yeah, I had to go to my car.
Yeah.
I had to move to my car and close it. And close the door, close the car door, turn on my car to get AC, and that's how I did the first interview. And look how far you've come, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I recorded those podcasts with like Apple earbuds.
Yeah.
And like now we're here with like lights and like a microphone in studio. It's so different, but it's fun. Like you were the first person to ever tell me to start doing stuff like this, like podcasting and video too. Like very recently, like literally 3 or 4 years ago when I was at ESPN 97.5, you kept pushing me to do video. And I was so reluctant to do it because I just don't like doing it like this.
I know a lot of people don't like being on video, but it's even if you just take your soundbite and convert it to a video, put the sound wave over it. The reason is because I also have a background in social media marketing and digital marketing, and I keep up with all the latest trends. And I saw it 4 years ago. They were all pushing video. They were all pushing video because you saw like the normal photo posts, text posts, the time spent on screen wasn't enough. Right? Like YouTube was beasting. So everybody wanted to take YouTube strategy. And that's why I was telling you, like, you got to get more video because they push video content up. More people will watch it because more people watch and spend more time on it. Thus, more ads, more revenue for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So now everything's video. If you don't post a video, people are like, I don't have time for this. So yeah,
literally, it started like 4 episodes ago. And it's an adjustment because like I have a bunch of notes in front of me all the time. And before it was just a notepad and paper, right? And I switched over to typing. And like now I'm paranoid about looking at my notes and not looking at the camera. And like that balance is so difficult to master. And like I have like a greater appreciation of guys who do video now.
Absolutely. And it's just like, you know, anything in the NBA, like we're going to talk Rockets basketball, of course, but it's all an adjustment, right? Like you look at the NBA in 2015. You look at it now, like what changes have been made, how guys have adjusted, and the ones who have adjusted have lasted, have won championships, have kind of, you know, done some good stuff, and the ones who haven't have kind of fallen off, right? So it's like it's anything in sports, you have to adjust, right? And you have to be good at that adjustment, or at least even try it, right? Because if you try it and you fail, at least you know that, okay, I tried my hardest, I adjusted, and if it didn't work, it just wasn't meant to be.
It's always the trying thing for me. I'm always reluctant to try stuff.
You have to try.
Right. Okay, so just as a heads up, we're going to talk Rockets for the first half and wrestling in the second half.
Yes.
So I'm really excited about wrestling.
I wanted to do wrestling the whole time, honestly.
I do too. I do too. I want to. We'll get this over with. So I know this is a Rockets podcast, so when we get to that point, there's timestamps in the description, so you can just skip ahead to the next guest. There's 5 guests, plenty of Rockets basketball, I promise. So we last talked in January. And at the time, Jalen Green was really struggling for the Rockets. Second overall pick, wasn't shooting the basketball well, obviously wasn't good at defense in the first place. Getting to the basket, kind of contorting his body when he finishes. Like, lots of weird stuff. He just wasn't playing well. And I swear, the moment after we published the podcast, he goes on this run, catches fire. Like, what changed, in your opinion, just watching him?
I think it's just the experience, the reps. Right? Like adjusting to game speed, adjusting to what defenses do, adjusting to the fact that you are the best player, one of the best players, right? So teams are scouting you. So the defenses are focused in on you. So Green had to adjust to that. And then now after that moment, right, that was about 3 months in roughly into his career. And now he gets to counterpunch and now he gets to go, okay, so here's what they're doing. Here are some of the tendencies that I've seen with teams, right? So here's what I can do. Coaching staff is helping him out. Here's what I can do on my finishes. And he's just too good of a player. He's too athletic of a player. He has too much of a drive not to get better. And that's what I saw immediately. I remember on that podcast, I was like, guys, it's going to be fine because you can see the flashes. You can see that he really wants to improve. And we'll talk about the offseason. Like you see all the work that he's putting in. I just think he's a special player. I've said it since he was drafted, before he was even drafted. I think he's the next guy. Like he is that Ja Morant kind of player where he can elevate his team to levels where you didn't think it was possible. because he's too young of a player. But eventually young players become, established guys.
Yeah.
And I think Jalen Green has that DNA, has that will in him.
Yeah, it's strange because it was really shooting that was where he was strong. He was getting past his defender every single time. That first step was legit, right? It was just a matter of what he does after he gets past the defender. It seems like he would get flustered once he sees a guy step up on him. And like he would get to the basket and do all this weird contortion as I talked about earlier, but then he gets to the basket and he goes straight up, goes into his defender, into the body, finishes. And like that's what you're supposed to, that's what you're taught to do. But it seems like he was, kind of shying away from that contact. He starts getting into that contact, converts a higher percentage, starts making mid-range jumpers because he was struggling from threes. I'm like, all right, I'm going to shoot mid-range jumpers. Starts hitting these mid-range jumpers at like a high percentage clip. Then his threes start falling. It went in stages, right? Starts finishing at the basket. Okay, now I need to find a counter for when they're closing off the basket. I'm going to shoot mid-range jumpers. Okay, now my shot's falling. Now I can shoot threes. And then it starts trickling down for the rest of the season, starts having these massive 30-point outings. And I really felt like the biggest thing for him was comfort, right? Reps is a great way, that's a great way to phrase it because it really was just like, I just need to see NBA defenses over and over and over again.
Absolutely. Like it's hard. You can't expect a player to come in and not have bad moments to start the season because they've never faced competition like this. Sure, they might have played with a couple of NBA guys or they might have joined guys in the sky court runs, right, and all that, but it's not the same, right? Like those are pickup games. There's a huge difference in every level. Like you see it in high school, right? You'll see a junior playing varsity and he's like, whoa, this is a little different because the speed is different. Then you'll see that great standout kid go to college and have struggles at first. He'll have moments, but he'll have struggles. But then the second half of the season in college, because he's adjusted to it, the reps have adjusted. And you're like, oh, okay, this is okay. I get what I need to do. So naturally, there's going to be that adjustment for a rookie in the NBA facing the best players ever. Right. He's going to have some struggles, but just to see it, go through I think the adjustment of being a pro, right? Like having those late nights, that is also a huge factor. So it just all culminates into reps, having experience. And I think next year is going to be even better for him.
Yeah, you mentioned a name there that definitely made me raise my eyebrows. Ja Morant, right? So normally, like, your typical NBA All-Star prospect, he comes into the league and like you see that jump that third year. That NBA superstar prospect, you see that jump like their second year. Right? Yeah. Like it just out of nowhere, they just start like going off for these massive outings and they become, before you know it, they're like a second team all NBA guy. Yeah. And now you have to recalibrate how you think about them as a player. Like Ja Morant became an MVP candidate overnight.
Yes.
And we just had to like adjust our thinking on the Memphis Grizzlies, and their entire franchise outlook is different now. And the same thing could happen next year for the Rockets. If Jalen Green plays like he did from January on to start the season, instead of having that struggle to start the season, we're talking about an all-star level leap.
Absolutely. I mean, when you go back and look at Ja Morant's rookie and sophomore years, you go, like for people who were watching, you go, man, like there's something special there. There's something there with Ja. And we saw it in college as well, right? Like you just saw that there's something special about him. If you could just find his shot at maybe like a 38% clip, he's going to be unstoppable. And he's done, I think he's at like 39-42, maybe around that range. So like he's unstoppable now. He's so good, right? The only thing that's going to slow him down is Ja Morant and maybe injuries, right? Like those are the only things.
That worries the hell out of me.
Yeah. And that's with every player that's that explosive, that takes that many chances. Injuries are always going to be a concern, right? Like
his landing injuries. His landing in particular is awkward. It's kind of Derrick Rose-esque in that he's plays and lands very strangely, and like it's like if I'm the Grizzlies, I'm front loading my timeline. Like I'm like, let's go compete now.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the same thing with Jalen. Like he's so explosive. And I think he's trusting his athleticism a little bit more too now. So that's why I think just like that next step is going to be awesome for him.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what he does in the second year. So did you watch Summer League?
I did a little bit, not all of it like I usually do. I was just busy with work, but I did watch some of it. And man, there's a lot of talent on this team. A lot of talent.
What are your impressions of third overall pick Jabari Smith Jr.?
I love it. I love, look, I thought Paulo was the best player in the draft.
Mhm.
And when Jabari shot up to number 1, I was like, this is great, because you knew OKC was taking Chet. Like, that was
Mhm.
just for whatever reason, it's going to work out,
Mhm.
and he was going there. So now it's like, oh man, like the potential best player Paulo is going to fall to you. But Jabari's right there. It wasn't like there's not a huge gap between them, in my opinion.
Mm.
Now, after Summer League, we kind of recalibrate, as you mentioned. We always do this, right?
Mhm.
You go, man, Paulo's the best player. Like, yeah, that's why it worked out to number 1, and that's why he shot up, all that stuff, right? But that's Summer League. Like, everyone take a chill pill. Let's see how the whole season plays out. I think Jabari is going to be great here. I think that's the right fit, a guy who doesn't need shots to impact the game, but can impact the game by shooting.
Right.
And of course, his defense is the other part of this, where you need a guy like that behind Jalen. You need a guy like that on a young team that can impact it defensively. So I love that he fell to the Rockets, and I think it's going to work out better in the long term, because again, he doesn't need the ball to impact the game. I think Paulo needs the ball to impact the game.
Yeah, I think in particular, like the word you mentioned, fit, like that really resonates with me, because out of all the 3 prospects that were on the board, that were realistically in play for number 3, Jabari was the easiest to slot in.
Yes,
right there next, especially next to center Alperen Sengun. I just wrote the story on Sengun.
Yeah, you heard 9,000 word essay on it. I got the email yesterday, and I was like, man, you had time. It was a manifesto almost.
Yeah, it almost feels that way when you read like how I'm talking about him, because it's like, I really believe in the guy, man. I really do. I think the guy has legitimate star upside. I've thought that since the draft. I've only gotten stronger in my belief as I watched him play more NBA games. Like, he became a 6th man as a 16th pick. Like, that's really difficult to do.
Yep.
And like, the guy's going to be a starter next season, probably play 30 minutes a game. The only guy that's going to take minutes away from him is like, what was it, like Willie Cauley-Stein? Like, he's
maybe,
not. He's going to play backup center for them. And so what you're talking about is like a player that can really pass the basketball. Like, a guy who was averaging 3.5 assists per game last year, off the bench again, can be a hub for you, and can really facilitate out of that high post area, and also have this incredible post game. And the only liability that he had was defense and shooting. And it's like, okay, now you have Jabari.
Yeah.
Right? And like, you slot him next to Alperen Sengun. And like, I feel like that like almost turbocharges Sengun, because he can just go play his game. Of course, he has to try defensively. He has to get better, and he has to, try to get better as a shooter to really expand his game. But he doesn't have to be the best. He can just go play his game, play to his strengths, and Jabari allows him to do that better than any other prospect that was on the board.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that takes a stress of like, okay, I need to pick this up defensively, as opposed to I can get better defensively.
Right.
Like for Jabari now, Jabari's going to have issues too defensively. Again, it's the same conversation we had for the first part of this talk, is that, look, it's going to be an adjustment, right? It's a different speed, different strength, different athleticism.
Different scheme.
Different scheme. So like, once that adjustment does happen and you've got Jabari backing you up, now Sengun can just be himself. And that's huge, man. Like, when you have that pressure off of you and your coaching staff goes, hey, just be you, man. Like, you don't have to do things that are out of your character, out of your abilities. Just be you and play basketball and do what you do best. That's just going to open it up, especially from that high post, man. It was so much fun watching him last year. And I think in a 3-point NBA, if you have a guy like that can spread it out from the high post, you can spread out your guards, and he can find them, whether it be for the 3 or a backdoor cut or any kind of screen action. Man, it's going to be so much fun to watch.
That's a great point, because the Rockets have a lot better floor spacing this season. Going. Like, now they added Jabari, they added Tari Eason, they added Ty. All these guys can shoot the basketball. The Rockets were like 22nd in 3-point percentage last year. Now they're going to be like, they could get to middle of the pack as soon as next year. And like, you're talking about a better better space floor, around Sengun. He can really spray the ball out to these guys, and that really adds to his playmaking element, and it helps structure the offense in a way that I don't think was structured last season. The Rockets were a little helter-skelter last year in their offense. It was very much like, let the kids run and do whatever they want. And now I feel like they can use Sengun as a hub, because especially now that he's a starter, like, you can organize, slow down through him, kind of organize everything, get everything set up, and he'll be able to like get you easy baskets. And I think that's going to really help them in their development curves.
Yeah, absolutely. When you got that much speed, you got that much talent around the whole team, I think you're naturally going to be better. And I think last year was a throwaway year. I'm sure they don't like hearing that, but it really was a throwaway year in that, look, you didn't like the Christian Wood storyline. You know, how is Green going to be the guy? Like, what are we seeing from him? What about the other young guys? Like, what are we seeing from them? You know, there was a stretch there where Sengun was like, can we get him more playing time? No, we can't, because we got this issue to deal with and all that. It was just a throwaway year. You knew you're not going to be a playoff team. I don't think anybody expected them to be a playoff team. No. So it was almost like, let's just see what happens. I think this year there's going to be more structure. I think there's more defined roles as well. And that truly does help Steven Silas. And that's going to help the entire organization. Like, okay, here's what we're working on. And now we can start like a 3-year plan for real, right? Like this year, we're going to implement this system, your roles. Next year, maybe even this year, I said when Green was drafted, I said by year 2 end, they should be competing for that 10 spot play-in. Like you could be in that range. And by year 3, you're going to be in a playoff. So like, I think now that plan is totally in place, and I think good things are coming.
Are you a KPJ guy?
I think he's good. I think he's a nice role player to have. I don't think it's. I don't think
they're not gonna like that.
I know.
You just dropped that word.
I know. But I like everyone has a role.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Like I know Jalen Green's role is to be the guy. Okay. Right. KPJ's role is to be
a nice safe.
Yeah. Everyone has a role, but his role is to be better. I think for KPJ, he's a good number 2, potential number 3. I think he has everything that you want in that. And I would like him. I would like him to be that guy for the Rockets for a long time. Absolutely. Like I think he's so good, has everything, but I don't know like what his expectations are.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot to prove. Would you extend him, or would you wait till we're free?
I would wait. Yeah, I would wait. I'm always about waiting. I want to see one more like, hey, this is like your butt is on the line. Show me, and then I'm like, okay, this guy has that dog in him. So yeah, I'm always about that. I like waiting. I don't like in season, or if you don't need to extend somebody unless there's just like massive signs that like, hey, you should extend him because he's gonna be part of your franchise for 10 years. You don't want any hurt feelings, then you do it. But if he's a guy you're like kind of on the fence about, like I don't know if he'll be here for 10 years, maybe he'll be here for 3 years. So let's wait. Why not?
Right. And he plays such an important position. It's like you don't want to mess it up. Starting point guard in the NBA today is like it's literally like maybe your first or second most important position. And like if you're not sure, as you said, like there's no harm in waiting, especially because you can still pay him all the money he wants. There's no rush.
Yeah, there's no rush. Like he'll be fine. Yeah. And I think he has that. If he has that chip on his shoulder, we're gonna see some special stuff out of him again. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk pro wrestling. I'm tired of this. All right. So again, if you are not a fan of pro wrestling, you can skip ahead. There's gonna be timestamps, and you can go to the next guest. But so you've known me since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
My dad is a basketball coach, and he used to organize these practices and pickup runs, and we used to bond over the NBA and pro wrestling. Yeah. Like I always say, like my first love was pro wrestling. My second love was basketball.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the same here for me.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you remember, like I had no idea what you were doing for a living, but I knew you were like connected in the sports and entertainment division in somehow, right? And like you'd bring like these brand new DVD pay-per-views of like WWE stuff, right? And I would just like bring them home and watch them feverishly. I had no idea what the hell you're doing. For all I know, you were like a dealer, but like you had connections, and like I would watch that stuff, and like I was at that time I was in, like I was watching week to week.
Yeah.
I was a diehard wrestling fan, and I haven't been that way for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, like, you know, through a bunch of stuff we'll talk about in a few minutes, I'm kind of the most excited I've ever been about pro wrestling in like 10 years.
You should be. Yeah. You should be. So wrestling has always been my first love, because when I moved here to the States, I moved here in 1990. My family immigrated over from Karachi, Pakistan. And I remember watching the first Monday Night Raw with my brother, with 1-2-3 Kid, formerly, then later on known as X-Pac, and DX, all the great stuff. So I remember watching 1-2-3 Kid, and I was like, what is this? Like the whole crowd is going nuts over this small guy who's about to get this huge win. He just has him in the palm of his hand. And I fell in love. And we would watch wrestling every Monday night on USA, except for the days that the dog show was on. Those are the worst days. So you didn't watch in those days, right? So like once a year, the National Dog Show, Westminster Dog Show.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it would bump Monday Night Raw.
Really?
Yeah, so it would bump Monday Night Raw, and I think Raw would move to like a Tuesday or something. So the Dog Show would bump it, and we didn't know when it was. Like this is 1995, right? So you just kind of like know Monday Night's Raw. You tune in. There's no social media. Websites are like not around right now, so you're kind of like getting information from chat rooms. And you didn't know that like this Monday night was a dog show. We probably just were like, yo, we would be devastated. Like we're looking forward to this, and there was a dog show. But yeah, I'm with you. I love wrestling, and I'm also with you in that I kind of like lost, like I would watch the pay-per-views. I always watch WrestleMania and Royal Rumble. I never miss those. Doesn't matter if I don't know anything. I love those.
I was the opposite. Like I legit, my dad would never let me get that stuff. Like
really?
I would just watch the TV product, and like eventually I started ordering WrestleMania. Yeah. But I always was like jealous. I'm like, man, all these guys are watching like the best pay-per-view of the year, and I'm just sitting at home wondering what happened. I'm like on WWE.com.
Yeah,
trying to find out.
Like what's happening. Yeah, I never paid for them either. Like somehow I'm probably like, I think it's good, right? It's been 5 years, more than 5 years. I can't get in trouble. But yeah, there was a little cheat code that we all knew that we would watch with, and yeah, I would never miss those. And even now, like since I got married in 2012, I would still go watch Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. Like I would take my wife, or I'd go meet up with my friends, some of our mutual friends, and I would watch those events. Like I have to watch those. It just makes me connect with my childhood. And now I watch literally Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, every pay-per-view, because my daughter, who's 7 years old, she is all in on wrestling. Yeah. All in. Like she can tell you every storyline right now, every intro. She is just in love with wrestling because we went to Friday Night SmackDown, the restart, the first in-person event through WWE. They were, gracious enough to get me tickets, and we were sitting in ringside, like fourth row. She's never watched wrestling. She has no idea what this is. And she left and she was in love. She was just like, whoa, this is amazing.
It is. Yeah.
So now she is all in on it. And now I'm back in, and I'm with you. Like, it is so much fun. Yeah. It's so much fun. And the one realization that I have, and I'm hogging this conversation, but I want to get this out and get your thoughts on this. So there's two wrestling fan bases, right? There's us, guys who grew up watching wrestling, and there's this expectation we have. And then there's the kids who we used to be, right? Like in awe of wrestlers, in awe of the storylines, in awe of everything that comes around the WWE and the superstars. Right. And to see it now through that eye, through those eyes, like my daughter, everyone hates Roman Reigns. She thinks Roman Reigns is unstoppable. And
I like him now,
she
actually.
Loves him. She's all about Roman Reigns. She's all about the bloodline. She loves Bianca Belair. Like she loves the pushes that these wrestlers get, or the superstars get. And seeing it through her eyes, it's so much more fun, because with us, like when I go on Twitter, there'll be an ending or finish, and you're just like, people just hate everything. Yeah. And that's what kind of, I was like, I found myself hating everything. And now I'm like, this is so much fun. This is way more fun because I'm watching it through the excitement of a 7-year-old. And so that, I think it's just so much more fun now.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was that age, I would get in trouble because I would draw the Rock's Brahma Bull tattoo on like my paper in school, and my teacher's like, "What is he drawing? Like, what is this? This is like a picture of a bull." And like that's how diehard of a fan I was. Like I would watch again every week, every pay-per-view, not every pay-per-view, like every television event. Yeah. And it was one of those things where these wrestlers could not do any wrong in my eyes. Like the baby faces, the good guys, right? They could do no wrong in my eyes. Like the heels were the heels. Like I wasn't cheering for the heels. That's something I do now that I'm an adult. Yeah. I didn't do that back then.
No, you hated heels as a kid.
Yeah.
The only heels, I guess, like DX was a heel against the corporation, right? It was like anti-WWF at the time. Stone Cold was anti-corporation, right? So like those heels we all started cheering for because they weren't heels, right? They were kind of like a face because Vince McMahon was the heel in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the only ones we cheer for. But now you're right. Like my daughter hates the heels.
Right.
She's all and she thinks Roman Reigns is a baby face and that like she loves him. She's like, yeah, he's the best. Like Bloodline's the best. Anybody else that's trying to take the undisputed title from him, they're the worst people in the world. So like, yeah, heels are never the favorites for kids.
No. And like that's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
But like when you get older, you get smarter and you realize how genius the heels are.
Yeah.
Like especially on the microphone, they just know how to turn a crowd and they know how to piss people off. And like I guess when you get smarter, something about like it's like you appreciate the craft behind it, right?
Oh yeah, big time. Like Paul Heyman. Now when I watch him, I've always appreciated his mic work. But what he does to set up a fight, the words he uses, the tone he uses, it not only does it work on the younger viewers, it also works on us, right? Like you get hyped up, you're like, oh man, this is gonna be so good. Yeah, I love the craft of wrestling. I think it's so interesting, the storytelling, not only on the mic, but storytelling in the ring. Like you have to be so good. Like for example, Friday night, there was an Intercontinental Championship between Shinsuke Nakamura and Gunther. Okay, so Gunther's the IC champ right now. He's unstoppable. He's just like Russian force, right? And Shinsuke's is fun, high energy. He's more, high flying and just more of a technical wrestler. So like the storytelling within that match, he just destroyed Gunther's right arm, right? Like he destroyed it. So as we're watching, my daughter's going, "Oh my God, I think Shinsuke is gonna win because Gunther can't use his right arm." Just that storytelling within the match is so much fun to see how it translates over to the younger viewers. So I'm all about the craft, and I think it's in a good place right now.
I envy you, man. I envy you. Like just to see wrestling through that lens, I think it's the healthiest. Honestly.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So let's talk about like why I'm the most excited I've ever been.
Oh yeah, tell me.
Okay. First, this new crop of young talent comes in like 6 years ago, right? It's like Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. And like, I'm intrigued, but I'm not exactly itching to go back, right? But I'm intrigued now. And then a brand new wrestling company just comes up out of the woodworks like 2 years ago, AEW, right? So for the past 2 decades, like nothing was on national TV other than WWE, right? Nothing was on their level. And like this young upstart, the fact that they had the audacity to not only go on national TV, go on TNT, sending a very clear message. TNT, the network where WCW used to air every night, right? And like I just loved it. And like they were paying big money to guys like Chris Jericho, CM Punk, Jim Ross, the commentator,
coaching guys,
John Moxley, like. And then I really started checking in like once a month, like because this new product was just exciting to me, like very WCW-esque, very like the wrestling that I grew up on, like where you could swear, where you would see blood, that kind of hardcore type of wrestling, like that's like what intrigued me about them. And they brought it back like from like 10 years ago, and I loved that style, and I loved it. So like I was checking in every month. I would watch on YouTube, and then last month, Vince McMahon, a complicated figure to say the least, and like that's been a part of everyone's childhood for like the past several decades, retires as CEO of the WWE, and Triple H takes over, and I'm excited, man. Like I don't know how to describe. It feels like a dark cloud's been lifted.
Yeah, I think that's
over the
fair.
WWE.
Because again, it's all about adjustments, right? Like I don't think WWE adjusted with the times. They kept pushing the same stuff of look, our viewers, they change the viewers. Like we want 7 to 13-year-olds, right? Like because they love this stuff. They're gonna get in love. They're gonna buy all the stuff. Their parents are gonna come, so you got to buy tickets. So they really started pushing that angle, right? So it started becoming a lot more clean, which is good. I appreciate that as a dad, right? They started pushing more wholesome stuff. They started pushing more faces. Like you see the run of Cena, one of the greatest runs ever, one of the greatest WWE superstars. But then you also start seeing some of the runs for the women's division, right? Like you start seeing with Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, like they're pushing these great women to like have this, have a, not a wholesome image, but an image of like, I can accomplish everything. So now girls are watching as well. So it just became a marketing / business decision. Now, just in the 3 short weeks that Trips has taken over, you can see it's getting back to that. It's keeping that, but also pushing, hey, the wrestling is important. Having fun is important. having moments that aren't predictable are important. So that's why I'm excited. Like you just saw on Friday night, again, going back to it, when was the last time an IC match, an Intercontinental match, closed out?
Never.
SmackDown. Like it's been years, man. Like it now they're pumping that up again. They're like pushing every title to be important. The actual wrestling they're pushing again. AEW's big thing, and you'll see Tony Khan on Twitter always say this. He'll say like WWE had 35 minutes of wrestling compared to 2 hours and 38 minutes of wrestling versus AEW. So you're getting like back to the actual wrestling itself as well. So that time goes up for WWE. So I think you're right. Like that crop of superstars that came in 6 years ago, like they're carrying it now. Like Seth Rollins is one of my favorite guys on the mic. Personalities. His new character that he has is he's like the Joker. Riddler meets Seth Rollins. He's so eccentric. He's awesome. Roman Reigns is just I think Roman Reigns.
This is the best Roman.
I think he is gonna go down as one of the greatest to hold the mantle. And I know he's not going to be The Rock. He's not going to be Stone Cold or Cena, Triple H. I think when we move a few years away, we're going to go, man, that was fun. Like that was so much fun to see what he did and how long he held it. So
I think this version of Roman Reigns, I appreciate.
Yeah. Like I love the Tribal Chief.
Right. Like this heel version, this like brooding, like I'm like 6'8". Right, like I destroy people, and like it feels like they were trying to make him out to be this underdog babyface. That's not Roman.
No, it's not.
No, it's hard to believe that.
Yeah.
This version is so believable. He has these cronies behind him in like his fame.
The Usos.
Yeah, the Usos. Yeah. And like I love this version of the Usos too. Like this is the best version of the Usos I've seen. Like before, they were like these again fun-loving tag teams. Like again, not believable at all. Now it's like, okay, this feels like a more adult-centric product.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like Roman they're untouchable right now, right? Like when they come out from the moment you hear the Tribal Chiefs music to the 14-minute walkout that they have, like they demand all your respect and attention. They're doing such a good job of building that up to like, it literally takes 7 minutes for them to, from the moment Roman comes out to his walkout to where he says acknowledge me, it takes 7 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it just builds up. It just builds up this anticipation. So now, like my favorite thing is when he's coming out, I always make my daughter, I go, stop what you're doing. Roman's walking out, and we pay our respect. Like I make her do it. It's so much fun. And like we acknowledge him.
Yeah.
And she can't leave until he says acknowledge me. And she goes, Roman's the best. And then she can leave if she wants. But like I get her into that. So she buys into it. And there's just this feeling of like, okay, Roman's the best. Roman's so good. Like who's gonna beat him? Nobody can beat him. He's Roman Reigns. So
right.
It's fun.
I mean, like here's the thing with Roman that always was so frustrating for me. It's like he was being pushed down our throat, right? Like it's like we wanted to like him, but because we knew that management was pushing him so hard, it made him so unlikable, on top of the fact that his character wasn't believable.
Yeah, the character was bad.
Right.
And that's the thing. See, that's like now that we know more about it, we're like, oh, he's getting a push. Kids don't know that.
Right.
Kids don't know what a push is. They don't know like, oh, she's getting a shot, or Liv Morgan is like currently in a push right now. They don't know that. They just see the storylines unfold, and that's it. And they're not jaded, right? And that's how I was like when I would check in on WrestleMania Royal Rumble, I go, oh, this guy's getting a push. This is boring. And I'd be like, I hated Roman. I was like, oh, he's getting a push, whatever. And now I'm like, I don't care about that anymore. I just want I just follow it like a TV show.
Right.
And it's so much more fun that way.
And I think I can do it now too.
Yeah.
Partly because like I just think Roman is like awesome now.
Yeah.
Like I think he's legitimately gotten better. I think he actually deserves that top spot.
Yeah.
Like I think he is the guy. Yeah. Like who's better than him right now? Nobody.
Drew McIntyre's shooting for him.
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
He's getting Drew McIntyre's getting a nice push right now.
And Karrion Kross,
yeah,
like I didn't know
nowhere.
I didn't know who the he was.
Yeah,
he just showed up on TV, very edge-like, like brooding, leather jacket, got a very edge-like figure, right?
Yep.
He shows up and he just attacks Drew McIntyre, and it's like, this is the wrestling I grew up on, man.
Like there's like stuff you look forward to the following week, right?
Right.
And not everything's resolved right there. That was the other thing. WWE would resolve everything right there, right? Like Karrion Kross would come out, and then they'll go, oh yeah, I'm here because I want this. No, like they left that moment 2 weeks ago hanging with I forgot his partner's name, the Angel, Dark Angel, whatever her name is. Like she puts the time thing upside down, and that was the last thing we see. There was no explanation. There was no, oh, this means blank. No,
it's subtle.
And then on Friday, he comes back on. They talk about it, why they did it. So you have something to look forward to. And they were so good about that in the Attitude Era. They'll like let you think about it, and then next week they go, okay, here's why this happened.
Right, like and like I'm so glad you said that, because I remember this might have been 2 years ago when Ronda Rousey made her debut. Right, she comes out and I freak out, right, because I'm watching it on YouTube. I'm like, oh, Ronda Rousey's in WWE now. So I'm watching the clip. I'm like, she comes out and like I think the three best female wrestlers were in the ring, and she's just like walking out, and she looks them in the eye. She looks at the WrestleMania sign that's always in the corner, like a few weeks before WrestleMania, and she points at the WrestleMania sign. I'm like, why are you doing that? Don't do that.
We don't need.
Just look at it. Just look at it and then look back at her. Imply it. Yeah. Make it subtle. Like I think the subtlety is what's missing, and like it's coming back with Triple H. I love that
because he was in that era,
right?
Like he's now gonna employ those tactics that worked not only on us as kids, but we appreciate them as adults now. So we're gonna watch now. Kids, you know, it works on kids because it worked on us. So it's just like, yeah, like it works. These are tried and true measures that work in wrestling. And I think where the change in wrestling, where it gets better, is in the ring, the storytelling. Like all the other storylines across every TV product, it's the same. Good guy, bad guy. Bad guy has his moment. Good guy can't win. Good guy eventually triumphs. And then that's it. You go to the next one, right? Like it's always like that, right? And every once in a while, the bad guy will win. He'll keep winning. You get, build him up. And then all of a sudden, the good guy wins, and it's worth 100 times more, right? So it's across all TV shows. It's across every storytelling method ever. So why wouldn't they just keep using it? But in the ring, I think it's getting better too from the actual wrestling.
And going back to AEW, like that's still good too. Like CM Punk just came back.
Yeah.
Right. And like I love that we have an alternative. Like even if like you feel like WWE isn't doing well, we'll just just wait till Tuesday. Right.
Yeah. Watch AEW.
Right. And I like that. I like that there's an actual alternative. There's good wrestling on. You just have to go find it.
Yeah.
Right. And like now, like the top guys are playing like the top guys again. Like it feels like they're like doesn't it feel like WWE has their swagger back? Like
I think it does, yeah.
Right? Like
I don't know if because I'm watching every week, or they really do. Like I'm not sure, but for me, because of who I am, what I'm doing in my point in this journey, like watching with my daughter, like I feel like they've got their swagger back because I'm excited to watch it. Like I can't wait for Monday nights. I can't wait for Friday nights.
Right.
So like Friday nights now, for us, so you and I, we're the same denomination for in Islam. So we go to prayer on Friday night, and then like my schedule is, okay, 5 o'clock, I'm done with work, and then I'll work out real quick, maybe do something, eat. Then we get ready for prayer. We get back about 9:15, and we're watching wrestling until about 10:30.
DVR.
Yeah. So like DVR also helps.
Yeah.
But like now that's my Friday night, right? Monday nights, I know. Monday nights are kind of hard. We'll watch like the first 30 minutes, and then she gets ready for bed because school's back now, and then we'll finish it Tuesday. So like my TV watching revolves around her TV watching now, which is fun. But yeah, I think they've got their swagger back because I'm excited for it. I'm
7:30
like, oh, cool,
bedtime.
Yeah, 7:30.
That's early.
Yeah, it's very like it's still light outside early.
Yeah.
But she also gets up at 7 a.m.
Okay.
So yeah. I know. I was like, did I go to sleep at 7:30? There was no way.
Yeah.
I think I would go to bed at like 9:30, 10, even in elementary school.
No. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, you're right. Like those routines you're talking about, I remember them because that's exactly what I used to do. And like now I'm doing that again. I'm DVRing Raw and SmackDown again.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in 10 years.
That's awesome.
And like I'm watching every week, and I'm trying to like get into it. And like I think it's easy to get into it when the product feels like it's catering to me as well as kids.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I think there's room for both of us, right?
There is.
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's what it's about. Is like that's why Roman Reigns works so well. Is because the younger audience loves him. Like he's unstoppable, and the older audience hates him. That's what you want. You want that perfect response of hate and love. If everyone loves you, it's like it's cool, it's fun, but it doesn't get that pop. right? But if there's half and half, then that half and half is going at it. Like when we were at that SmackDown last year, so I went with my brother-in-law, Rolo. He's a mutual friend of ours.
Right.
So we, at the time, we were like, okay, we're going in as pro-Roman crowd. Like, we're going to be the pro-Roman. So, like, when Roman comes out, we're like, yeah, Roman. We're, like, acknowledging him. He's the best. And then you just hear, like, people around us who hate him. They're booing louder to drown us out. So that's what you want. Like, if everyone's just going, yay, it's just like, all right, cool. You know, like, you want that 50-50.
Right. Well, I do like how, like, that older audience, like, even if like they're booing him, I think they're booing him and they also appreciate him.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like strictly like, get this guy off my screen.
Yeah.
It's like they're booing him almost because they know they're supposed to boo him.
Yeah. But there was a point where they were like, get him off our screen.
Right.
People hated him.
Right.
I was like, why? I've always like, I hated him because he got the push and it didn't feel natural. But like knowing like, and as an adult, you know his story, what he's gone through. I'm like, dude, he's awesome. Like he's the perfect guy for that role. So,
and the moment he loses, it's gonna be so important.
My gosh.
Whoever takes it, like that, you just know they're saving it for
Yeah.
somebody special.
Yeah. I don't know who. I mean, there's no one. I hope it's Drew, because then Drew can carry the mantle. Like he's there every week. He's been so good for the company that I hope it's him.
You know who I hope it is?
Who?
Kevin Owens.
No,
I
think
love Kevin Owens.
I love him too, but I think he just kind of I think his moment passed, unfortunately.
Well, I think he can get it back though, because
Yeah.
Triple H is here. You can build him back up,
Yeah.
keep this going for a few months, and then perhaps when it's
Yeah.
time, then you do it. But you're right. Like I think if there is a guy, it's him.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't, KO
would be kind of cool.
I just remember like his run as the Universal Champion or whatever was so like uninteresting because they didn't take advantage of like the high level matches.
Yeah.
Right? Like they had this amazing feud with Chris Jericho and it petered out and it didn't become anything. And like I think you bring him back now, you give him the proper push. I think like again, like you can reutilize all these guys that you still had on your roster, maybe weren't used right, whatever. And now they're being used right. And like I just like that. But I spent far too much of your time today.
You're good,
we went a little long, but I did really want to talk about pro wrestling because I've never been more excited about it.
Same here, man. Thank you for having me on, man. Congratulations again on hitting a milestone. It's awesome. It just shows that your hard work, your passion for this topic, your passion for putting out content is paying off. And I love to see it, man. And I'm thankful for the opportunity, man. Not only on when I was one of the early guests, but also for this one. So thank you, man.
For sure, absolutely.